Telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll call you right back podcast.
Hold on, right? Yeah, let's try there.
There you go.
Oh, you're the man.
Yeah, it sounds good, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You like it, I love it.
Is the volume all right on your phone?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. But like I said, I really appreciate you coming over and talking to me about this. Very excited to talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
I am, we just got through Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And me personally, my Christmas season kind of kicks off the beginning of November. I kind of get in that mood. I kind of start to watch, the Christmas films that I really enjoy. And it really starts to, once the air starts to get cool, starts to really feel like it's coming in. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I had a plan. We recording now? Or?
We are, yes.
Oh, my bad. I didn't know if we were just chit-chatting. Or
No.
So started recording.
I don't really do an intro because it kind of just has everyone, I don't know. I roll into it. I call them a roll in.
Yeah. Well, my Christmas starts a lot earlier. I mean, I have to have everything decorated, my house decorated by October. Sometimes even sooner than that, because once I get into the season, I'm so busy. If I don't do it then, I'm not going to have time to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm not big on putting up Halloween decorations, whatever, because I've got to get things ready. I've got to get my suits ready, my clothes ready. I'm talking with clients. I'm emailing, messaging, whatever it takes to get things set up. In this kind of business, everything's last minute. I did the tree lighting for the Highmark tree in downtown Pittsburgh on Light Up Night, which is the old Horns building, the old Horns tree, which is a huge honor for me to do. But nobody's going to tell you what you have to say or what you're going to have to do or where to park or any of that. You find that all out at the last minute, and I'm so used to it by now. Sure, you kind of get used to it, and you're ready for that last minute call or last minute email. Oh, there's been a big change. We need to do. Okay, not a big deal. It doesn't upset me anymore.
Comes with the territory.
Yeah. Nobody.
For a man that has to travel all over the world to deliver presents in one night, I mean, you're used to it, I'm sure.
I have enough trouble traveling all over Pittsburgh delivering my presents. Bad enough. But
are you from Pittsburgh originally?
Yes, grew up in Lawrenceville.
In Lawrenceville.
Back when it was all mill workers.
Mill workers.
I'm a baby boomer.
Can I ask when you were born?
I was born in 1956.
1956. Now that's 44, 60, 70? You 70 or 69?
67.
67. I'm terrible at math.
Yeah.
But so Lawrenceville back then, I mean, I can't even imagine what it was like compared to what it is today.
Oh my God. It was a whole different town. It was a whole different. I can remember growing up and, at Christmas time, all the kids got excited at Christmas time in Lawrenceville because they used to hang these huge lit up stars on all the telephone poles along Butler Street in Lawrenceville. And when you're coming home from school and you see the workers starting to put up these huge stars, you knew Christmas was coming. That's when you started to get excited. And it was like a small town feeling. You had your local shoe store, you had a hardware store, you had a few banks, you had a couple of baker shops, butcher shops, and everybody decorated their front windows for Christmas. You'd walk along and see lights or garland or, the banks would also often have a nativity set in the front window. There was a kind of a junk store. It was called Manchester's way back in the day, and he sold anything and everything. He had odds and ends and almost like a flea market, but it was a store. He put this huge train display in his front window. And us kids would go there and stand there with our jaws dropping open, looking at these trains going round and round. And it was the coolest thing in the world.
What did you say that place was called again?
It was called Manchester's.
Manchester's.
Yeah, it was right at 42nd Street and Butler in Lawrenceville.
Well, whenever I think about that, as soon as you said that, I immediately think of the beginning of A Christmas Story, whenever they're looking through the windows. And me, myself, I don't know if I've ever actually really experienced that sort of that sort of like moment. I don't know if any kid my age really experienced it. You know, I'm 34.
Yeah.
I feel that by the time, you know, whenever I was a young kid, you know, that was kind of phasing out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's cool to hear that, you know, Lawrenceville was it had its community stores. It had its few little things down there.
Oh, yeah. We had a movie theater, and they used to, on Saturdays, they had a kiddie matinee.
Wow.
That was, and I went to the Catholic school, Holy Family School in Lawrenceville. And when school was letting out, there was a person there handing out handbills to the kids, saying like what movie was going to be playing on Saturday. And sometimes it was 17 cartoons, which is they played 17 cartoons like all in a big loop.
Wow.
And you could go in at any time, you could leave at any time. And, you know, when you got to the cartoon you saw when you first came in, okay, well, it's time to leave. They used to have, like you remember the movie Santa Claus Conquers the Martians?
Yes.
I saw that when it first came out. It was a kiddie matinee. They made these cheap movies, just like they made science fiction movies back then. They made movies for kids for these kiddie matinees because the local neighborhood theaters, you know, they were looking for something to bring kids in because that was part of their income. That was part of their money. And then after a certain hour, it switched over to more like adult movies, you know, and the popular movies for them. But the kiddie matinees, they were like 50 cents. And
what was that theater called?
It was the Arsenal Theater.
The Arsenal Theater. Oh, right where the Arsenal Bowling is.
No, the Arsenal Theater was... there's a PNC Bank.
Oh, I know exactly where that is.
And they have a big parking lot. The Arsenal Theater was right in that parking lot.
Oh, my. That's awesome to hear about.
They tore down the theater to make a bigger parking lot for the bank.
Yeah, that's unfortunate that stuff has to happen.
Yeah.
But it's cool to hear about the history of it all. It really is fascinating.
You know, I have so many memories of Christmas. Like my earliest memory is, maybe 3 or 4 years old. And back then, your mom took you everywhere. There was no, I'm going to drop you off at grandma's. No. If mom had to do shopping or go somewhere, she took you with them. You know, she took me with her. And I've seen cars and I've seen trucks before, but we're on Butler Street. We're waiting, you know, for the transportation to go to downtown Pittsburgh. And it was Christmas time. Well, this amazing machine pulls up. It was a streetcar. It was red and white, and it was streamlined and had one big headlight in the middle of it. And as a little kid, I never saw anything like that. Oh, my God, I thought it was a rocket ship. You know, it pulled up. It was like a train, but it wasn't a train. It was modern looking. It was futuristic looking. And we got on a streetcar, and it was the most amazing thing I could ever remember. Back at that time, streetcars ran down Butler Street in Lawrenceville. And it would take us like through the Strip District and through, you know, until we got closer to downtown Pittsburgh. And we got off in downtown Pittsburgh, and I thought I was in something like Disney World.
Yeah.
Like you get off and you look around, and every store was decorated. There were decorations going across the streets. Every window had something in it. Of course, back then you had all the major department stores. They had all their windows decorated with animations, and they told a story often. Like you would see something in one window and then walk to the next window, and that was part 2 of the story, then part 3 of the story.
That is incredible.
Yeah, and you know, the stores, the shopping, there were people there. Like Thursday night was a big night in downtown Pittsburgh because all the stores were open until 9 p.m. So my mom would take me shopping, and we had to do all her stuff first. Like she had to go to her shopping and look, you know, buy shoes or whatever. And she did most of her shopping like at the 5 and 10s. And if I was a good boy, okay, we'll take you to see Santa Claus, you know. And you would go to Kaufman's and Horn's, and the stores were amazing. Everything was geared towards kids, you know, us baby boomers. And everything was, Horn's department store had 2 of their elevators decorated like rocket ships. The insides had switches, dials, lights. They had elevator operators back then, and the elevator operators dressed up as astronauts.
Oh, my God.
And they would hustle you into this elevator here. And kids were allowed to touch the dials and flip the switches and push the buttons. And the operator would close the doors, and then you heard the countdown, 10, 9, 8, and you heard mission control. You had all the noises on the speaker.
They created a world for you.
They created, and then lift off, okay? And then you feel the elevator start to go up, and then you're pulling more switches and touching dials because you're helping to fly the rocket ship, And then the store reaches the 7th floor, the doors open, there's Toyland, there's Santa Claus. It was kid heaven.
Wow.
It was like, yeah.
I mean, I can't even, it's almost hard for me to conceptualize that as my closest memory that like kind of is ringing somewhat true to that is like walking through Century 3 Mall in the early 90s. I remember vague of that, but like, it's so crazy to hear about like your experience down there because I just saw John from Odd Pittsburgh. He posted the Kaufman's lobby photo of it today. And it's, to see that is so incredible. And like I just went to the mall recently, and there's a small amount of decor up, but back then it was just so much different. It's crazy. Christmas was always something big for you?
Well, that's what started me on Christmas. Now, I grew up in Lawrenceville, and it was a mill town. It was mostly mill workers working there. My dad worked for the mill, and my dad was an alcoholic. And, if you know alcoholics, they kind of make it rough around the holidays.
Yeah.
They start up whatever. But I had a mother that loved me. I had an older brother that loved me. I had a sister that loved me. And despite the things that might have happened with my dad, they gave me a lot of good memories. They made Christmas extra special for me. They made Christmas extra nice for me. They would go the extra mile, being a little kid and trying to, not so much that they could shield me from it, but they were like an alternative to it. They were saying like, well, that's not normal, but here's normal. They gave me like a shot at like a normal life. And I greatly appreciate it. One of my earliest memories of Christmas Eve when I was little was, it was Christmas Eve, and I must have been 4 or 5 years old again. And I'm pacing the floor waiting for Santa Claus. Like I'm a nervous wreck because that's how kids are on Christmas Eve. You're a nervous wreck. And, the tree was up, and my brother and sister were there. And my dad, he was behaving himself at the time. He was kind of, he was all right. And I'm like, when's Santa Claus going to get here? Oh, well, we don't know yet. And so for some reason, my dad had this idea. He said, come on, Johnny, let's go down to the basement and we'll sing some Christmas songs. At the time, I thought, okay, that's fine. We got down to the basement, and I remember singing. We had a nicer basement. It wasn't like a cave, whatever, but we were singing Silent Night together down in the basement. And next thing I know, I heard this noise upstairs, and I heard a ho, 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 and I heard all this commotion, and my little legs thinking, oh, my, what's going on here? I think it's Santa Claus. And my little legs are running up the basement steps, and then I turned the corner down the hall, and I turned the corner down the next hall and into the living room, and just as my foot stepped into the living room, the front door slammed. And my brother said to me, Santa Claus was just here and you missed him. I can't believe I missed him because I was waiting all this time. I was waiting. It seemed like hours. There was this huge stack of presents by the tree that I think was higher than me. I mean, all these amazing presents. And I'm thinking, well, where's Santa Claus? So I ran to the front door. I opened the front door and I looked up the streets. I didn't see anything. And I looked down the street and I didn't see anything. But I thought I saw my uncle's car, like just turning a corner, pulling away. But I don't know. My mind didn't believe. But that's what they made Christmas for me. They gave me, like children. Children like to have things for Christmas, and they ask me for iPads and iPhones, and But you often heard the expression, "It's better to give than receive than to receive." The best thing you could give to kids today is memories. That iPad's going to end up in the garbage someday. That video game is going to be trashed someday.
Absolutely.
But, 10, 15 years from now, those kids are going to sit around and they're going to say, well, I remember the time Uncle Chad took us down to the mall. We got to see Santa Claus, and then he took us to see the lights over at Overly's. And that's what they're going to remember. Just as I remember, the nicer things. I mean, I have some bad memories of my dad, but, I chose to dwell on the good memories. When I sit back and realize what my mother and my brother and my sister did for me, to make things so nice. I mean, my brother would take me to see the James Bond movies, when they first came out.
Yeah.
And my sister would she took me to my first light up nights.
Were you the youngest?
I was the baby.
Yeah.
I was the baby of the family. And, so memories are the best possible gift you can give a kid. You can give a kid a gift from a dollar store, and they might, but if you make a memory with it, you take them ice skating or you take them to see things, and there's so many nice things to do around Pittsburgh. That's what they're going to remember. That's going to be long after. They're going to forget what they got for Christmas. What did you get for Christmas when you were 7 years old? You may or may not remember. It might have been some Star Wars action figures, but you're going to remember the times your family had. You're going to remember the family gatherings. You're going to remember.
Absolutely. My home growing up, my parents always hosted Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So growing up, both of my parents both had multiple brothers and sisters. So we had a literal horde of cousins and nephews and nieces, and it was such a magical time growing up for me. And I know that it makes me feel very lucky to be able to have the feelings that I do around the holidays, because they're such a positive to me. But I know people who have unfortunately have negative experiences around the holiday, and it's sad to realize that is a reality. But it makes me fortunate that my parents were able to create that world for me, that I could still and I think that's why ultimately I hold it so close to me, and I choose to be Santa for my family now.
Awesome.
Because that was always just such the funnest part of my childhood is Christmas Eve with my cousins. And the presents were great and everything because we all had them, but it was just all of us together, playing together, just getting together. And obviously you become an adult and it doesn't get to happen as often. But it's powerful to hear about it though. It's powerful to hear that your family, your brother and your sister and your mother were able to create an existence for a positive outlook on it all.
Oh yeah, and people that are unhappy during the holidays, they tend to dwell on the negative things that happen. But if you look back in your life, you could say, there was a time this person did this for me, or these people were nice for me. And if you tend to dwell on the more positive things, you're going to feel more positive about it. And whatever you think about all day long is what you're going to end up being or doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm happy to hear you play Santa Claus. That's cool. I got into Santa Claus years ago. The thing about my dad was he was an alcoholic. I was heading down that path too. When I was in my 20s, I was like John Belushi from Animal House.
Yeah.
And his father was an alcoholic, and most of his brothers were alcoholics too. And that's how they all died. And my brother and I was talking the other day. It's we have no idea how long a male in our family will live to, because they've all died drinking to death. But
prematurely.
We discovered there was no cancer in my family. No one's ever had a stroke. No one's, some amazing things here. And I think in my 20s, when I was doing my John Belushi thing and entertaining people by getting stone-faced drunk, I think I had a hangover that lasted 3 days. And I said, man, is this what my dad feels every day? Is this what he has to go through every day? And it shocked me out of it. Chad, I want no parts of this. This is not fun. It was fun up to a point, but then it became scary.
Yeah.
And I stopped drinking altogether. And eventually I met a wonderful woman, and she was divorced and she had 2 kids who were an absolute joy, a boy and a girl. And I fell in love with her, and I fell in love with her kids at the same time. And I ended up adopting her kids because she had been married to an alcoholic or a drug abuser, and he stopped paying child support, and eventually he signed over the kids. He says, it was too much of a bother for him.
How old are you at this time?
Oh, about 30.
30 years old.
About 30.
And at this point, you have parted ways with drinking.
Yes. Oh, a long time. At least 10 years parted ways with drinking.
Okay, so
At that time.
now, whenever you met this woman and these kids,
Yeah.
did that kind of kick off the Santa Claus? Whenever you're playing Santa Claus?
Well, absolutely, because I wanted to create the kind of memories for them that people had created for me. And just as you said, Century 3 Mall was new back then, and I can remember taking them to Century 3 Mall, and they had amazing decorations,
Amazing
from the
there.
ceiling, and they had a merry-go-round, and they had Santa Claus, and they had, we got our pictures taken with Santa Claus at Century 3 Mall, whether they were scared or not. And they had, but my wife and I used to do a thing early on, because we really didn't know what they wanted for Christmas. They could say, I want this, I want that. The best thing to do was take them to Toys R Us or any toy store, let them run up and down the aisles and see what they go for.
Yeah.
See what they're attracted to. Like, see what they stop and hold and wind up or touch. And then that's what we would write down. Like, oh, okay, he liked that toy. He seemed to go for, she went for this toy. And that's how we knew what they wanted for Christmas. Well, my mom had found me like a really cheap Santa suit somewhere. It was like, it was a thrift store or whatever. And she says, here, I found, and I'm thinking, this is great. I can play Santa Claus for my kids. And we did the thing, it was Christmas Eve, and we would put the kids to bed, and then my wife and I would get the toys, put them under the tree. And then about midnight, I'm not sure if the kids were sleeping there or not, but she would say, hey, I heard a noise downstairs. Would you mind coming with me? I'm afraid. And, don't wake up your dad, too. He's in there sleeping. And they would walk past our bedroom. The door would be wide open. And she had pillows, like, arranged in such a way that it looked like I was laying in bed asleep. And they would creep down the steps real slow. And I had, my Santa suit on. And I'm taking presents out of a garbage bag and putting them under the tree. And next thing I know, they catch me in the act. Oh, well, Robert and Jesse, well, you're supposed to be in bed right now. What's going on here? And why, since you're here, give me a big hug and let's snap a picture. And, these are your presents, but you have to wait till tomorrow morning before you can open them. And they were like in shock. They were like in awe that Santa Claus was actually in their house. And I was amazed I could fool my own kids.
Yeah, that's incredible.
With a cheap suit and a cheap beard. And, we did that for years. I was their Santa Claus. And
how old were they at that time, that first time?
Very young, maybe 3 and 5.
Oh, that's incredible. That's my niece. My brother's daughter is around that age now. So it's like, that's like the time where, they could formulate it and put it together.
Yeah.
The babies now, whenever they hand me the babies, a lot of them tend to just cry. I think I sent you the one picture of the one crying, but it's 1 year difference and they tend to love it. So it's so cool that you had that opportunity to do that. And you could obviously, it makes you want to continue that tradition with how incredible that was.
Oh, absolutely. And, when my kids outgrew it, I would do it for nieces and nephews. I would do it, when they outgrew it, I would do it for neighbors.
Well, let me ask you that real quick. Let me just, now, whenever you say outgrew it, when was that for your kids?
Well, my son was older and he outgrew it first. I would say third grade.
Third grade.
Seems to be when other kids start talking about it.
Yeah.
There is no real Santa Claus. And then he came home and asked me about it. And I says, okay, well, yeah, it was me all this while. But you know what? Act like you still believe for your little sister.
Yeah.
Make her, and then he kind of like was happy that he was in on it.
Yeah.
And he would say to her things like, I think I hear jingle bells on the roof.
Oh, that's cool.
He played along with it, which was kind of cool. And then, of course, she reached an age to roughly third grade, fourth grade. And, kids at school talk, and then they come home and ask you questions. And I always tell people, don't let your kids be made fun of. If kids are saying there's not a Santa Claus, don't lie to them and say, okay, yeah, there really is a Santa. Let them in on the truth, but then teach them the spirit of giving. Say, well, now you can be Santa Claus. We know somebody, churches used to have giving trees, where you would pick someone's name and it might be somebody that needed a coat or needed something for Christmas. And so we would do that. And I said, well, now it's your turn to play Santa Claus. And you could do things for people with Santa Claus.
I love that. Yeah. Like whenever you're phasing out of it, it's your turn to be in on it all and help continue that tradition forward.
Teach them the spirit of giving.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now let me rewind a little bit. Now, as you're, if we put Santa Claus to the side, what is your life like as far as a career? Like, you're obviously not Santa Claus full time. Yeah. Now, I mean, what did you take to growing up?
Well, I became a carpenter. Through I served my apprenticeship in the Carpenters Union, and then I got a job with the city of Pittsburgh.
Is that why there's that infamous photo of you hanging up a wreath?
Yeah. Oh, you found that, huh?
Say, well, I mean, I have an ace in my pocket with John Shalkowski.
Okay,
that guy. He. I mean, it's like talking to a living encyclopedia.
Yeah.
You ask a question, it's living AI. But except it's just intelligence. It's not artificial.
Yeah.
But yeah, he showed me that whenever him and I did a Christmas episode about Gusky and
the first
all of that
department store Santa Claus.
We did a really, really long episode about that, and he actually is when that whenever he put me on to you, he said that you were the closest thing that he's ever met that gave him the feeling of Santa Claus and Christmas.
Wow.
And that's I think it was me and him ended up recording a little bit later last year, so the ship kind of sailed last year, but I had you on my list this whole year. I was waiting.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I was curious. So that explains why that photo of you hanging that wreath is up. You worked for the city.
I worked for the city. I was a carpenter, and then after a while I became the locksmith, which is same pay as a carpenter, but they tend to take the oldest carpenter and make him the locksmith. And I still work for the city of Pittsburgh. I get 5 weeks vacation. I take the entire 5 weeks of Christmas time between Thanksgiving and Christmas so I can play Santa Claus. So I call that my real job, and then the other job, that's, working for the city, that's just my hobby.
Wow.
Yeah. That
is amazing. And Santa, so obviously whenever you found that lucky lady and her children and you became Santa for them, I mean, what year was that?
Oh, I think we got married in 1989.
Okay, so when does that go from you being Santa for your kids and your nieces, nephews, whichever they are, to where it's became now? I mean, now you're the Santa for Pittsburgh.
Well, for a few years I put it away. I've had some disaster in my life. My daughter passed away, an unfortunate accident, and 10 months later my wife died.
Jeez.
From an unfortunate incident. And I was in such a deep grief, despair. I mean, I've experienced depression like I've never known it before. It's probably it is the worst thing that could ever happen to a person. And I was in therapy for about 18 months. I've taken antidepressants. My poor son, I mean, he was in high school then, and I was very difficult to live with. He ended up living with his aunt and uncle because I was such a basket case, and I don't blame him. But I mean, we're close now, but at the time, he wanted to get away from me, and I don't blame him at all.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, it was such a dark hole for years.
When was this?
It started in 1998, and then my wife passed in 1999.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very terrible to hear about.
Yeah, but God is good. Life goes on. There was a lot of good people in my life that helped me through it. There was the Caring Place in downtown Pittsburgh, which just happens, it still exists. It's located in the former Horns building that I enjoyed going to at Christmas time when I was a kid.
And what is the Caring Place?
It's a division of Highmark. It's a place for people it's for grieving children.
Yeah.
If you've had a loss in your family, whether a child lost a parent or a sibling, there's no cost to the family. You go in there, they meet once a week, and they serve you a meal. They have maybe pizza or hoagies, something like that. And then the adults go sit with the adults in a group section, and you talk over how you feel, and you talk over what you're going through. And then the kids, according to age groups, go into their own session, and they can talk about their feelings and what they're going through. And kids grieve a lot differently than adults do. But when you have a big loss like that, and you have to go back to work, and people at work tend to people you see in everyday life forget that right away. They forget you lost a child, they forget you lost a spouse, and they sort of expect you to function normally. it was good to have something with like the caring place, where there was other people going through that same exact thing that I could talk to, and
common ground.
Common ground, exactly.
They could kind of understand. They could see where you're coming from and the problems that you are facing right now.
Yeah, because men have a tough time. I mean, when my daughter died, it hit me hard, but it hit my wife even harder. And I felt like I had to be strong for her. Like, it's not that I couldn't grieve, but, she was in tears. She was crying a lot. And, my son, he kind of acted nonchalant about it, but I knew he was hurting inside. I felt like I had to be the strong one.
Yeah.
And going to like a group session, like at the caring place, you find out you don't have to be the strong one all the time. It's okay to cry now and then. It's okay to feel bad now and then. It's okay to miss an appointment every now and then. That got me through it. But when my wife passed, it was like double. It was like, my wife's therapist came to her funeral, and she put her business card in my hand and said, "You call me, no matter what, you give me a call." And I did, and I ended up going to see her as a therapist for about 18 months. It's good to get help like that. As men, we tend to be, we're strong and we can get through anything, and it's really not that way. Men need to grieve too. Men need to unburden themselves from time to time. It's good that there are therapists that can help you with things like that. It's good. There are I think I was on Zoloft for 18 months. And Zoloft is not a happy pill, because I didn't want to take a happy pill. I didn't want to be goofy. In my mind, I'm thinking this is something goofy. No, Zoloft kind of works on the serotonin in your brain. And the serotonin is something that kind of keeps you normal.
Yeah.
I had trouble like paying a bill. I had trouble getting up for work. I couldn't sleep at night. And the Zoloft kind of helped bring me down. It helped. I guess like when you have a shock to your system, the serotonin in your brain like shuts down. And it's not, and the Zoloft kind of like coaxes it to make a little more serotonin, like the more, just so I can write out a bill, just so I can like
function.
Yeah. What did I walk into this room for? And I didn't stay on it. And you're not meant to stay on it. It was only when your grief was at its worst.
So you can maintain.
And slowly, when you started to feel normal again and getting back to like a routine, although the grief is always with you. I mean, the loss of my child and my wife, that's always going to be with me.
Can't even imagine.
But the functionality of me as a person goes on. I didn't know how much longer I had to live, but I'm in this world, I'm in this life, and I have to live life.
I mean, this is 24 years ago that this happened, and obviously you persevered through this as much as you could. But I mean, I feel like what you do, just from what I know what you do as Santa Claus, just to hear this end of this story just like speaks, I mean, just even more volumes about this, because for you to go through so much grief and so much heartache, to be able to really pour your heart out into, this time for other people and give back for other people. I mean, I'm sure that it's a rewarding feeling for you to do this for people, but ultimately the experiences that we were talking about before that you're giving children and families, I mean, it's incredible. And for you to be able to, push through that, I mean, that tragedy, to keep doing this. I mean, how long have you been a professional Santa Claus?
Oh, I think since 2006, 2007.
So like about 8 years after that happened.
Yeah.
And you said you took a few years off to, I mean, like when were you able to, come back to living a life that was where you were able to function as a person in society? Yeah,
it's a slow process, and you have to give yourself the time to do it, but you're not always going to be hurting. You're not always going to be grieving. Life goes on. I can remember when my kids were little and we were talking about making memories. I used to take them to the Celebrate the Seasons parade in downtown Pittsburgh. And we would watch the parade, and they were little kids back then. And at the end of the parade is Santa Claus. And I used to think, what does it take to be Santa Claus in a parade? Like, who do you have to know? Like, how do you get into that? And I thought, well, maybe someday I'll find out. So, my grieving's getting better and better. I'm getting more functional at work, and my head's getting back. And there was a friend of the family that was opening up a brand new flower shop up in Ligonier. And they said, "Can we borrow your Santa suit so one of our employees can dress up like Santa and work our Christmas open house?" And I said, "Well, nothing doing. If anyone's going to play Santa, it's going to be me." There was a show on TV back then called Survivor. I think it still might be on.
Oh yeah, it's still ripping.
I stopped watching it, but I noticed in 39 days a man can grow a decent beard.
Yeah,
and I thought, oh, why don't I try going with the real beard? Because the beard I had with my old suit, it was getting kind of yellow, and
it's hard to use a fake beard.
Yeah. It's hard to use a fake beard. And I thought, okay, I went online and I was reading, there's a group of men in California that look like this all year long, white beard, long beard, whatever. And they're professional Santa Clauses, and they're in movies, they're in TV shows, commercials, ads. I thought, well, why not corner the market in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
So that first year I had my beard, and I used stage makeup to whiten it.
Yeah.
And I did the open house for the flower show, and I tell you what, it was like magic all over again. It was something sparked in me. It brought the life back into me. Visiting with those little kids and, playing Santa Claus again. Like all the old memories came back, and seeing the smiles on their faces, and even like the smiles on the parents' faces. Like I'm thinking, when the parents are smiling too, then I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
And there was a woman there that came up to me and like pulled me to the side and says, "Do you do this on the side?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, I'd like to have Santa Claus come to my house, and entertain. What do you charge?" And I'm thinking, I don't know what I charge.
What do you pay me?
Yeah. So I just said $50. Okay. And then she gave me the, her address and the, what day and the time to be there. And they were going to have presents out on the porch. And I would pull up and pull the presents in the bag.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I went there, and I'm making all kind of noise outside. After I have the presents in the bag, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. And you see the curtain of the window open, and these little eyes are looking out. And then it closes real fast. And then you hear running around like craziness inside. And, I'm ho, 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 Merry Christmas, and ringing my jingle bells. And the kids, you can hear them bouncing off the walls inside the house. And, next thing you know, the front door flies open. Oh, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. And they were having their Christmas party there. And there was about maybe 5 or 6 kids there, and they're jumping and dancing around, and I've got this big sack full of presents, and I heard there were some good kids here, so I had a couple of early Christmas presents just for you. And we sat down, and I posed for pictures with all the kids and handed them their present, and they opened up their present and were excited. And after we got through the 6 kids, I'm thinking, it's kind of early, it's only been 15 minutes, what do I do now? So I said, is there any adults who want to have a picture with Santa? You're never too old to get a picture with Santa. And they were like, sure. I think Facebook was kind of new back then, and social media. And so I posed for pictures with all the adults. Hey, come on, you're, whatever. And there was one grandma in a corner, sitting by herself, and she was looking at me, and she's like motioning me, go away. Like, no, don't come near me. You're not going to do that with me. And it says, oh, Grandma, hey, well, let's come here for a second here. And I went over to Grandma, and, she softened up real quick. I said, I remember when you were a little girl, and do you remember that doll I left for you? And you were so happy to get it. And you could see her face changing.
Thawing out.
You could see her like, wow. And the hostess of the party came over and took pictures of us. Well, that was her mother. And it turned out the hostess was telling me that her mom always had a Santa Claus come to the house for Christmas. And she wanted to do the same thing. She wanted a Santa Claus to come and just, spread some cheer. And she was so happy that her mom agreed to have a picture taken with Santa Claus. And now that's like a big memory for her.
Yeah, that's really incredible.
Oh, yeah.
It's cool to hear how it all kind of like spins together and creates its own, creates its own world.
Oh, yeah.
Creates its own legs. I mean, now, whenever you were kind of making that transition, obviously you're doing this for yourself and your family.
Yeah.
How do you develop how like often whenever I'm preparing, I'm like, all right, I got to try to get my ducks in a row. I just want to be able to kind of, say what I need to say, not stumble too much. I mean, did you have like an idea? Were you running through like a script in your mind? Did you kind of have an idea what you wanted?
You kind of have to wing it. I mean, well, basically, the kids come to see you, and hi there, what's your name? You know, get them their names and soften them up a little bit. I was wondering, is there anything special that you want for Christmas? And then you see them think about it. And some kids know right away, you know, and some kids, they don't know. Like, they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. You know what? You get a chance, go back and sit with your folks and write me a note and send it to the North Pole. But don't wait too long in getting that note to me, because the elves are going to need time to make your gift. And then we get the pictures, you know, smile, take the pictures. And like places like the History Center, now we let the parents get in too. You know, after we take pictures with the kids, does mom and dad want a picture too? Because there's no professional photographer there. You bring your cell phone, you bring your own camera. You can take as many pictures as you want.
Now it's so fun because it's like improv. It's improv.
Yeah.
I mean you know, I only have a handful of these kids that I'm dealing with, but sometimes they say things that just catch you off guard, and you kind of, and the people that I've interviewed in the past that have been Santas, they've had stories where they, you know, say the same thing, and it's always so fascinating to hear how, you know, you're performing, you know, you're putting on a performance. It's great, and I like the idea that you chose to be the route of a real bearded Santa.
Yeah,
I know they're few and far between. But you've always been able to grow a nice beard?
Oh yeah, well, you got a pretty nice beard there yourself, there, Chad.
I've been working very hard at it, but you said any man could grow a nice beard in 30 some days. It took a long time for this one.
Really?
But I you know, my wife is like, it's getting pretty long, and I'm like, it's Christmas time. I'm gonna probably. She's a wedding makeup artist by trade, so I'm gonna have her spray it this year. So I'm gonna try to. I feel like this is gonna be my last year before I get revealed a little bit. So I'm gonna try it out this year.
Who do you play Santa for? Like,
so basically all my nieces and nephews, my goddaughter last year, this is what really got me. Last year, she's 9 years old, sat on my lap, and she's looking at me, and she's turning her head, and she's staring at me, and I'm like, hey dear, like, hey little girl, what would you like this year? And like, she's like, I know who you are. And I was like, oh, and I'm motioning her to be quiet. And her dad basically uttered what you said. It's like, you know, now's your chance. You know, she has a younger sister. She was like, this is for Jensen now, you know, help her along with it. So she plays along with it. And it's fun to be able to do that. But it's just family members. So it's hard because it's like they kind of know me, you know what I mean? It's like my wife rolls into the house and then I'm not there, and then Santa rolls in 5 minutes later, and then Santa leaves, and then I come in. But you know, playing for someone else would be great. Funny enough, whenever I was younger, I was always a portly fellow. McKeesport did something called Festival of the Trees. I'm not sure if they still do it or not, but they had a Santa Claus call off, and I was probably 13, and I played Santa Claus whenever I was 13. I had a kid drop a hot chocolate on me. It was chaotic, but I've always really loved it. Like I've always really wanted to do it. And when my brother had kids, I was like, you know, I'm going to get a Santa outfit. I don't have children of my own. Me and my wife don't. So, you know, I'm the fun uncle.
I was the fun uncle too. I was the guy that got down on the floor with the kids and like, hey, well, let's play with these toys and whatever. Yeah, that's the fun uncle is the best Santa Claus.
It's the best. It's a great time. Now your Santa outfit that you wear, I mean, it has a different style than a traditional Santa. I mean, is there a certain name for the type of Santa outfit you have?
It's called a Continental coat.
Continental.
It's custom made. Years ago, like the mall Santas kind of got together, and a Santa outfit is like a winter coat that you wear buttoned up to your neck. And it gets warm real fast, as you well know. You know, it gets warm there. So they came up with an idea of an open coat that has no buttons, no zippers on it. It's open. And I usually wear a vest underneath. And my thing is to wear like a shirt and a tie underneath too, so I look.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's so that was part of the innovation of that style.
Well, that sets me apart from other Santas.
Yeah,
because no other Santa will do that. No other in this area anyway. And you know what? People ask me, why do you wear a tie? Well, Mr. Rogers wore a tie. The Beatles wore ties at one time. When I was growing up, like, you know, everyone wore ties, like the delivery truck drivers, the mailman wore tie, police officers wore ties, and you know, a tie was like a big thing. It was kind of like like a, I don't know, respect or
Yeah,
a
it
rite of
added,
passage.
it elevated it.
Yeah, it elevated the look. So I always wore a tie, and I don't wear like loud Christmas ties. I get like nicer ties that looks like something Santa would wear, like maybe red and white. Modest, but
still on theme.
yeah, still on theme.
Yeah, I like that.
I've got several different vests now I wear.
Well, I mean, you told me, so you asked me if I wanted you to wear the suit today, and you said I plan on wearing Santa casual.
Yeah,
and I feel like that looks fantastic. That's it almost reminds me of the scene in the Santa Claus whenever he's wearing just the red jacket with the gray beard. It's like, you don't really. You're not meant to look like it, but it does look like it. It's a nice shirt.
Oh, thank you so kindly. I have several flannel shirts that are basically red, green, and I wear them, off duty.
Well, what happens? So obviously you have built, your name around here as Santa John, and you are, down at Light Up Night. You do the Heinz History Center. You do multiple different events down here. But what happens when Christmas is done? Do you? This is a big part of you. So do you just go back to work and, you're working till the season comes back?
Pretty much so, but you know what? I have all the memories of the past 5 weeks, and that kind of keeps me going. It's like, oh, I remember this, and I remember, lighting that tree that I saw as a kid, out at the corner of Penn and Stanwick Street. It used to be the Horns tree, and then now it's the Highmark tree, and like the honor, like, wow, I got to light that tree.
It's incredible.
They picked me out of anyone they could possibly. It's a big thrill. When they hand you a mic and say, okay, Santa, you're on, and they don't tell me what to say, they don't give me a script, just go up there. And I've learned over the years, I've taken classes in public speaking.
I was going to ask you that. That's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, were you always someone that was good at speaking?
No, I was the worst. I mean, public speaking, acting is a good class to take. I took the Dale Carnegie course.
Really?
Yeah, which was a big help in playing Santa Claus. I mean, a lot of the Dale Carnegie principles is what Santa Claus does.
Well, at what age do you get this in your mind where you're like, I'd like to, have a little bit of training in this?
Well, when I was in my 30s and working for the city, I was kind of interested in politics. And someone mentioned that Richard Caligari, who was the mayor of Pittsburgh, took the Dale Carnegie course. And I became fascinated. Okay, what can you learn taking the Dale Carnegie course? Have you ever read the book or taken it?
No.
Okay, there's a book that Dale Carnegie wrote in the 1930s. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And you can find them at pretty much thrift stores. There might be a full version of it online because I don't.
I'll find it for sure.
The copyright might have expired, but it's good people skills, like really good, like memorizing people's names. When you first meet somebody, you want to remember their name right away. And I do with that with kids. I'll say, "Hey, little Chad, how you doing there?" And remember, mention their name throughout while I'm talking with them. And when they leave, "Oh, Chad, we'll see you." Make sure you go to bed early on Christmas Eve, because I bring the presents when you're asleep.
Wow.
Good people skills. I've never gone to Santa school. I've never taken a Santa school, but I've studied. Miracle on 34th Street, the original 1947, is like my training film.
Yeah.
I'll watch that, and Edmund Gwynn won an Academy Award for playing Santa Claus.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's incredible. So I watch his mannerisms, the way he walks, the way he speaks to people, the way he smiles and nods his head, and I patterned my act after his. I thought, well, okay, he won an Academy Award. He must be doing something right. So that was like my inspiration, my influence.
Wow. That's awesome to hear about. Oh, yeah. Now, as you're kind of going around and you're establishing yourself as ultimately did you decide I could monetize this? How do you monetize yourself as a Santa Claus? How do you get your name out there as a Santa Claus to where, you're not just, there's multiple other Santas, but how do you become the guy?
It was all by the grace of God.
Yeah.
It was all the good Lord put me in the right place at the right time, and I met the right people. Well, okay, I did my first year as a Santa Claus.
Yeah.
You know, I made $50 from the lady I did her Christmas party that I just told you about. And as I was leaving, she handed me an envelope, you know, and here goes Santa. Here's our Christmas card to you. And I got home, and it was $50. She put an extra $20 in the envelope.
Yeah.
Just because she was so happy. You're like, wow. And I'm thinking, okay, you don't want to become a Santa Claus for the money. You don't want to be that guy that, like, somebody, one of the, a newspaper published a story a few years back, how to make $10,000 a year playing Santa Claus. And it's all, too many guys read that and thought, all I have to do is put on a red suit and go ho, 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 and I'll make $10,000, you know, in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not that easy. It's not that cut and dry, but the market was flooded with Santa Claus for a while because they saw that article, and the next thing you know, they have a Facebook page and they're trying to get into the market. It's not that easy to get at my level. I worked for the city. Slow is better.
Yeah.
Slow is better anyway. I worked for the city of Pittsburgh. So the next year, did the same thing, grew the beard, you know, had a little stage makeup, and I knew people in the city parks department. And I knew they were doing the mayor's tree lighting on light up nights, you know, and this was the year 2007. And so I said, how would you like to have Santa Claus show up at your tree lighting? And they're like, hey, that's a good idea. They didn't have to pay me because I was already on a payroll.
Yeah.
We just had to get permission from my boss. He said, yeah, go ahead, do it. So I brought my Santa suit to work, and I dressed up. And
that's incredible.
And I got to meet a lot of people and shake a lot of hands. A lot of people wanted to have their picture taken with Santa Claus. Well, the one girl that worked in the Parks Department introduced me to a friend of hers, and this lady, you know, came up to me and looked at me, and she says, you know, you're a pretty good looking Santa Claus. Would you be interested in doing our parade? And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe this is Greenfield or Carnegie. Which parade are you talking about? Sure, I'd love to do your parade. Which parade is it? And she said, to celebrate the Seasons Parade. And I grabbed my heart, my chest, and I went back a couple of, like, oh my God, this is a dream come true. Like, here I am 1 year playing Santa Claus.
Yeah, the right place, the right time.
The right place, the grace of God. This was when Kaufman's was just switching over to Macy's. And they had a lot of Macy's people working, you know.
You said around 2008?
This was 2007.
2007?
2006 is when Kaufman's became Macy's, but they were still Kaufman's in a way, but they had the Macy's name.
Yeah.
Well, now Macy's was trying to establish, like, you know, their grip on the Kaufman's franchise. And the woman turned out to be an event planner who just, by the grace of God, I happened to be at the right place at the right time. Wearing a
That's
red
amazing.
Suit. That's amazing. And they also hired me on as Macy's Santa Claus.
Wow.
So I worked in downtown, you know, we used to be Kaufman's, and now it's Macy's.
The place that you used to go.
The place that I used to go. Well, not only did I go there, but I worked there as a stock boy, you know, right out of high school. And then when I became a carpenter, I worked there as a carpenter, putting in the parquet floor on the 6th floor. And now I'm back working there as Santa Claus. So it was big, like, oh, well, you know.
That is incredible.
That is incredible. And you learn so much, like, in that kind of, when you're sitting there like several hours a day and people just keep coming to you, kids keep coming to you, you learn every possible question, you learn every possible kid, you learn every possible personality.
Yeah, through experience.
Through experience. And I highly recommend these mall Santas. They do a job. I mean,
I know, it's incredible, and that's literally why I sought out people to talk to, because I saw a video of a little girl who was deaf. Her mom put her on Santa's lap, and you know, Santa was talking to her, and her mom was like, oh, she can't hear, and he started to sign just a couple things, and this girl's face lit up to like no end, and you know, my eyes start watering, and things like that are really incredible to me, because you know, like you said, it all goes back to creating these memories and just being part of that. Are you now I'm sorry to revert to this, but you said something, you said in passing, you said, I grew the beard back after Christmas. Would you shave your beard?
Well, I was married to my second wife by then, which was a big disaster. I was grieving at the time. I met this woman. She seemed like the answer to my prayers, and it turned out it didn't work out. And she insisted that I shave it off after Christmas. She didn't mind me growing it but then you shave it off after Christmas. And I shaved it down to like a goatee.
And then you were able to grow a nice looking beard like that back with no problem.
Yeah. Oh, I can grow a beard I can go from bald face to a beard like this in 6 months.
That's insane.
It grows at a rate of about 1 inch a month.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Some guy just asked me today at work. He said, how long have I been growing? Because a guy at work, he's had a beard that was longer than mine. Today we walked in, he cut it off. He just randomly cut it off. He came in with a goatee, and we were all like, what? And because he's had it longer than me for as long as I've been there. And they asked me how long this has taken me. And I think that, I'll trim my beard, but I've been growing this since January 2021. So I'm sure if I would let it go, it would go longer. But before, the last couple years that I played Santa, I've had a big beard, and I would be wearing a fake beard under it.
Yeah.
So it did not work because I have this brown beard, and then I have a white fake beard, and it's clashing. Yeah. So I was curious, on the whole idea of you growing that back, but that's incredible. So you being in the right place, the right time, kind of is how this all came to be. And let me say for the record, whenever I asked you about monetizing Santa Claus, I hope you didn't take it as me.
No.
As that, but my thing is like whenever I say that, it's like, how do you kind of fit into these random jobs like you just told me? It's incredible that those were just like just word of mouth happened to be here. My whole entire Santa career is just being at the right place at the right time, meeting the right person, and from working for Macy's several years. I forget who I knew with the city of Pittsburgh, knew someone else named Ida Diorico. And she was working for the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership at that time. And they were looking for a Santa Claus. And this is before they did the holiday market in Santa's house. They needed a guy for light up night. And I thought, well, okay, I'd like to work light up nights, Market Square. And they had me do like a couple stage shows in the Market Square. They would have kids come out and do dancing and shows, whatever. And I would be the guy to come out and do announcements and learn my way around a microphone. And one year they did Santa's tent. It wasn't even Santa's house yet. It was Santa's tent, and it was light up night, and they're bringing in kids one after another. Well, from working, a few years at Macy's, I could handle this, bring 200 kids in line. Was that crazy at Macy's? Was it pretty crazy at points?
Well, there's some stories I could tell you about Macy's here and there. Macy's was nice. It was when you were Santa Claus for Macy's, you were there for the convenience of the customers. It wasn't so much to sell a photograph or pressure somebody into buying a photograph. You were there for the enjoyment of the customers and their kids. And if they wanted to get a photograph as part of it, they would. You
were part of the experience.
They wanted.
You were not the focal point.
Yeah. They wanted you there for the experience that parents had been coming for years to Macy's, Kaufman's, and wanted to experience a downtown Santa Claus. And that was really the last downtown Santa Claus.
I was just going to say, do they even have any toy stores anymore, really?
No.
Because I believe that Toys R Us went bankrupt, but then John from Odd Pittsburgh told me that they opened another like wing of like a Ross Park or something. I don't know. That's hearsay, but I was mentioned that Toys R Us was open at one point. But as a kid, like you said, the best way was to take your kid and let them see things. But I don't even think they have toy stores now.
It's a shame, isn't it?
Oh my goodness,
it's a shame. Everything's bought online, but a kid doesn't get to hold a toy.
That's what I mean.
They don't get to pick it up.
You can't see what it looks like. You can't touch it.
Just shake it, look at it, and
it's terrible. I'm lucky enough to where I feel like I made it through pretty much all of high school without a cell phone.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, there's 10-year-olds with these cell phones. The whole world is different.
Yes.
But I'm lucky that I would say people my age were kind of at the tail end of it all, where we got the initiation of all this crazy technology that we're in now. But then we also were kind of like riding bikes together, and we weren't attached at phones all the time.
Yeah.
But you were saying down at, before I interrupted you were saying down at Market Square. Now, was that the same situation where you would line up kids and does that ever get overwhelming for you to have a line of, all these kids to, because I'm sure it's taxing.
Yeah, well, when they ended up building Santa's house and they had like a physical building there, then they had the holiday market around too. They had all the different chalets, and it was a whole entire experience. It was a reason to come back to downtown Pittsburgh. I can remember in Santa's house, well, the first year was like a little slow, wasn't that bad. Then the second year seemed like word got out, it caught on. I can remember some Saturday nights where the people were lined up from the front door, around the building, down the street to Permane Brothers.
My goodness.
And it's Saturday night, and you learn how to do things like a little bit quicker. When the line's that long,
efficiency.
They called it Santa drive-through, It's like, hi there, what's your name? I couldn't even hear the kids half the time anyway, because they had bands playing in Market Square and trying to hear over the noise.
So you're just working with what you got.
Yeah, working with what I got, give a big smile. Let's get a nice picture here together. And
that's incredible, though.
Yeah, you kind of, which I don't like doing it. I'd rather spend a little more time with the kid, which I get to do at the History Center and other places.
For what it is, I mean, you can't, unfortunately, you can't spend, 5 minutes with each kid whenever there's, people down the block.
Yeah, 100 kids in the line, and it's like, 10 minutes till quitting time, and like, okay, let's get through this line here. And but the kids are your best teacher.
Yeah.
That's why I say go out and like you, Chad, you have the twinkle in your eye. You could be Santa Claus. You've got the smile, you've got the twinkle in your eye.
I appreciate that.
And it's good you're playing for your nieces and nephews, but if there's like a preschool in the area or a church group or something like, hey, do you need Santa Claus? And not like they have to pay you money or give you a lot of money, but the experience.
Yeah.
Even like old people's homes or like a nursing home or something. You could be Santa for the old people, and they love it. And you know what? You treat them just the way you treat the kids. So, hi there, what's your name? Oh, you look cute today. You have the prettiest smile.
Man.
The prettiest eye. And get experience. The kids are the best teachers. They have Santa schools, and there's things you can learn about Santa Claus online, but the kids are your best teachers. Being exposed to different kids, and you could work like one day a year, Santa Claus for your family, and you compare that to the guy that works 5 weeks in a mall, working 7 days a week, 10-hour days, not getting a break. Now he's the guy making the big bucks. He's making a ton of money, but that experience of every different possible kid, every different possible question, every different possible scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it's a skill. It's, people are really, really, really incredible at it. And I remember, the Santa Claus, I remember distinctly the Santa Claus at Century 3 Mall, how real it felt.
Yeah.
Before Pittsburgh Mills Mall closed down, they had a really nice setup out there too.
Yeah, it looked like an old log or something.
Yeah, it was like a forest scene or whatever. I don't even know if they have that anymore, unfortunately. But now, do you think that there's ever going to be a point whenever there's not going to be Santas in person? Because I've spoke to a Santa here who he does like an online service where people, Zoom, because this was also over COVID. Yeah. So that's understandable. But do you ever think that that's a reality?
Maybe for some people. But like we talked about earlier, it's about making memories for the kids.
Yeah.
And the kid might, you could do a Zoom call for a kid. Okay, that's nice.
It's not the same.
But it's not compared to when you dress them up and you take them down somewhere and there's lights and there's decorations and, like a place like Overlays, and you get to see the train set up and different things. And now you're going to see Santa Claus. It's the whole experience of it, not just Santa Claus and okay, that's it. But no, you want the whole thing. You want it all.
Yeah, that I agree with you completely. Yeah. Do you think that the age of Santa Claus, what would you say the age that people kind of phase out of it is? What would you guess?
You mean stop playing Santa Claus?
No, kids necessarily believing in Santa Claus.
I mean, I've had kids 9, 10, 11, 12 years old say that they still believe in Santa Claus.
Yeah, that's usually around the ages. Like that's about the oldest you would see in the lines that would be coming to see you.
Well, younger. I mean, I've had babies,
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about as far as kids older. The reason that I ask that, I'm curious because we're talking about as far as technology and everything, and all these kids have iPads, cell phones, everything like that. I feel like it's almost like, it's a blessing and a curse because it could almost, it could almost take away the allure of Santa. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Kids could almost, find out things on YouTube. Kids could be curious about it and type in Santa, and they could see things on YouTube that say that.
Santa Claus is the last thing that anybody wants to give up. Kids, adults, they'll give up the Tooth Fairy, they'll give up the Easter Bunny, but Santa Claus is the one thing they want to hold on to.
Yeah.
They want to believe in Santa Claus. They see all the shows on TV, and they see all and they want, even though the evidence is against it, a lot of them in their heart, they still want to believe. The true spirit of Christmas lies in your heart.
Yeah.
And kids, even if there's people that believe the earth is flat, and even if you show them the evidence and I still believe it's flat. And I think that's how kids are with Santa Claus. When they get to be a little older, too old to believe, and they still want to believe, and they carry that into their adult life too. I still believe in Santa Claus, and maybe it's the physical man Santa Claus that they believe in that lives in the North Pole, but the spirit of Santa Claus, the spirit of that exists. It's very real.
It's really incredible. In Pittsburgh, we touched about that. We touched on this briefly before, but Joseph Guskey, and that, like, the incredible story of all that, and to just that guy was basically doing, he was doing it. He was Santa Claus, kind of before it was established at that. We're now, I don't even, forgive me, I don't remember what time, but were you pretty well versed with his name, growing up? Were you guys familiar with him growing up, really?
Guskey?
Yeah.
No, I had never heard of him until John Shalkowski mentioned it to me, and he sent me some, he emailed me some of the literature he had about that.
The placard and everything, and you're thinking, for people that are listening right now, I spoke with Odd Pittsburgh about this before. There's a guy named Joseph Guskey who kind of, took the idea of Santa Claus and ran with it. He was a guy who owned a department store down there, and every year he would supply toys to all these different organizations and schools and boys' homes and everything like that. And it was doing incredible stuff. Now, how do you? I imagine that you're pretty busy around December, but whenever you're not working, what do you like to do?
Well, I'm a big Christmas fan.
Yeah.
There's some guys that play golf. There's some guys that go fishing. Some guys that go hunting. I've always been a Christmas kind of guy. I like Christmas, and I was thinking about making my home into a Hallmark house.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, I have a big house and I don't use a lot of the rooms, so I thought, why not make the living room out of a Hallmark movie?
Yeah.
And then, I could rent it out to photographers. People want to shoot videos and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And that could be another source of income. The set's already here,
Absolutely. That's incredible. Now, do you think, as far as, your story of Santa Claus, is there anything that I'm missing that you could think of offhand?
Well, let me see. Okay, I worked at Macy's, worked for the downtown part. One job led to another, from the downtown partnership. There was a press conference going on, and I met Andy Masick from the Heinz History Center.
Yeah.
And
how does that happen? You met him and they didn't have a Santa down there?
Well, they hadn't even thought of having a Santa, but him and I hit it off really good. And they were going to do an exhibit called A Very Merry Pittsburgh, which is their most popular exhibit. At that time, Macy's had closed, and the History Center was trying desperately to get whatever they can from Christmas time.
Yeah.
They got Santa's chair, which was the same chair that I sat in when I worked for Macy's.
Wow.
Now it's behind glass. Now it's an artifact, But I tell people that was my chair. I sat in that chair. They found an exact duplicate of that chair. I think it came from the manufacturer from Bronner's in Michigan.
Wow.
And I think it was the last chair they were making. They were going to switch up to a different design. And they had the same design for decades. And they had the exact chair now that I can sit in and visit with people and kids. But from the History Center, it's been such a blessing because Pittsburgh's a big Christmas town. And to go into the Very Merry Pittsburgh exhibit and see all these remnants of the old Kaufmann's and the old department stores and the way they celebrated Christmas years ago. What I think is really cool about that exhibit is when you first walk in, there's a big table there full of toys. Old-fashioned toys. There's Etch-a-Sketch. There's Rock'em Sock'em Robots. There's a Slinky. And the kids can walk in and just start playing with the toys. And some of these toys, these kids have never heard of.
Yeah.
There was a girl with a Slinky that was so amazed with the Slinky. I remember her playing with it. She put it down on a table and come run up to me and said, Santa, I want a Slinky for Christmas.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And that's what the old department stores did. They had toys. When you walked in, the Coffins and the Horns, they had huge tables of toys that you could pick up, put your hands on.
Yeah, the tester tables.
Yeah, the tester tables.
I remember all that. That was KB Toys in Century 3 Mall for me.
Yeah.
Like, that was vivid. And it's a shame that that's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
That's it's sad.
Yeah, well, maybe someday somebody will realize that and open up a toy store.
There's a couple good ones around here. I actually just seen one last weekend called the Learning Express. Are you familiar with that?
No.
They're in South Hills Galleria, the Galleria at South Hills. It's it's a unique store that has a lot of cool little gadgets. And if I was a young kid, that's where I would be asking all my stuff from. There's science kits in there and all sorts of cool, fun things. But that's really incredible. Let me ask you, what were some of the things that what were some of like your most treasured gifts growing up that like really stuck with you? Anything that sticks in your mind?
Well, I can remember like very early getting a robot commando.
Robot commando.
Yeah, and it was about the size of R2-D2. Maybe it stood up about maybe 2 foot tall, and it shot ping pong balls out of its arms. It was battery operated.
Wow.
It would roll along, and its eyes would roll around in different directions, and it was like this killer robot that a kid could have. I saw a commercial for it on YouTube not that long ago. Its head would open up, the top of its head would open up, and a missile would shoot out.
Unreal.
Yeah, and you could you had a really crude remote controller that was wired to the actual robot commando, and you could make it turn left, and you could make it turn right, and then you would talk into the microphone and say fire, and it would shoot like ping pong balls out of its arms, and
that's incredible.
It was such a cool thing for a little boy to play with and have fun with, and then like from there, I like director sets.
I loved it.
Build things. You could build bridges. You could build buildings. And
they had cars with little motors and everything in there. Yeah, my brother was 6 years older than me, so I got the experience of playing with the older kids' toys.
Yeah.
And then I had my toys as well. So erector sets was always something that was in our house. Now let me ask you, young kids telling you what are like some of the most common toys that kids tell you? I would imagine it would be iPhones, iPads, PlayStations, and Xbox.
I get a lot of that, and some of these kids are being kind of like smart-assy.
Yeah.
When they ask for stuff like that. And I always turn it around, and I say, well, before I can get you an iPhone, I have to get a letter from one of your folks saying that it's okay for you to have an iPhone. And then the parents look at the kid and smile.
Santa got it covered.
Yeah, I got it covered. Because, if the kid asks for a cell phone and, I can't say yet. You really, as Santa Claus, you can't promise anything.
Yeah.
You got to. But it's the same thing. Years ago, it was like, Santa, I want a puppy. Well, I don't know if this kid's going to get a puppy, or I don't want to.
Yeah, you don't want to give them false hope.
Well, and if I say, well, I can't get you a puppy because I have to put him on a sleigh, and I say, well, you gave my friend a puppy across the street, so the kids are ready. So I put it back on the parents. Well, before I can get you a puppy, I have to get a letter from mom or dad over there saying it's okay for you to have a puppy, and if I get that letter, then you'll get the puppy. And then the parents kind of look like, aha, we got you now, So
that's I didn't even think about that. Do you have? I mean, do you have to deal with some negative on any? You have any negative experiences? I'm sure some kids are a little bit more uncontrollable to handle.
Yeah, but, I get to do country clubs and things like that now. I've graduated to like an upper level. And I love rich people. They're wonderful people. They're very generous, very kind, very giving. But their kids can be so bratty.
Yeah.
And I had a little girl that's like, how do I know you're a real Santa? Can I pull your beard? And I said, oh, sure. It's real. And she pulled it so hard. And it's like, I'm like, I can't yell at her, but I said, oh, hey, be nice. You know?
Yeah.
And the parents are just looking, laughing, like, oh, isn't she cute? Like,
Yeah.
oh, come on. I mean, she's being a brat, and you're just letting her get away with it.
Yeah.
I can remember one time at Macy's, it was like a weeknight. It was a slow night, and this mom comes up, and she's got 3 boys with her. Now, I don't know if they were brothers. They were obviously related. I'm not sure if they were brothers, cousins. They were roughly close in age, and these 3 boys were like the Three Stooges. They were knocking each other around and pushing each other and tripping each other. And I mean, it was like, oh my God, get ready for this. These kids are coming up, and the mom's shaking them and yelling at them. And that was back in the days, moms did stuff like that. And she's, the kids are coming up, and I'm guessing like 3, 4 years old, somewhere in that age range. And so she picks up like all 3 at one time and sits them right down on my lap. Now, one of them, or maybe all 3 of them, needed a diaper change, but they weren't wearing diapers. And as she plopped them on my lap, literally plopped them on my lap, I felt the squish. And I thought, whoa, you could smell what was going on there. And, we're trying to take pictures. And actually, these boys aren't cooperating. They're hitting each other while they're sitting on my lap. They're punching each other and smacking each other. And the mom's like trying to straighten them out. Okay, take the picture again. And I'm thinking, oh, man, that odor, please, this will be over soon. And I'm trying to smile, and my eyes are watering. It was so bad. So finally, like, it ended, and she got up and she took the boys, and they went off. And I motioned to the elf, like, cut the line for a second. I needed to check my suit.
Yeah.
But the suits were provided by Macy's then. And I thought, well, if there's something on this suit, I better switch up. They had spare suits in the locker room. And I'm looking, and I don't see anything. Okay, I guess this is all right, So I sat back down, told them to, reopen the line. And this little girl comes running up to me, Santa, Santa. And she got close enough, and she got a whiff of that odor, and the expression on her face, Chad, like just like Santa,
That is crazy.
Oh,
oh man! Like I said, first time for me, I got hot chocolate spilled right on my lap. Ooh. 13 years old.
13 years old.
Yeah, I was. That was.
You were 13 years.
That's
old.
whenever they asked me to fill in, and I was.
Yeah.
It was. But yeah, it comes with the territory.
Oh yeah, I've learned to, like, if I see a kid or somebody with a drink, I'll say, "Could you set that down?"
Yeah.
Could you set that down first? Or
have you had a lot of different types of wardrobe, like uniform changes throughout the years? Like, obviously, you said it was a continental coat.
Yeah. Well, I had.
Did you wear
traditional Santa coat?
Yeah, you wore a traditional at one point,
which I mentioned was very warm. But at Santa's house in Market Square, the heat wasn't that good, so I wanted a warm coat. I wanted something that was like buttoned up to my neck and zippered. And
but if you're in the mall, you're sweating to death in there.
Yeah, at the History Center, I needed the open coat. I needed something a little bit cooler, to keep me cool from not getting overheated. But you adapt and you change, at times, and you learn as you go along.
Unreal. Have you had any kids like kind of stop you in your tracks with like meaningful things that they said that they wanted? Do you have kids that really put some thought into it like that?
Yeah, I have this. I've got a letter. Well, anytime a kid makes me something really nice, like artwork, or draws me something really nice, or I tell them I'm going to take this back to my home and hang this on my refrigerator.
John told me that you do that.
They put a lot of time and effort into it, and their crayons, and I love art, so I take it home and I put it on my refrigerator. I have magnets. This one little girl wrote me a note years ago. Dear Santa, all I want for Christmas is for like all the lonely people to find someone special, to spend Christmas with. And like, wow, that was like really touching. Like,
incredible.
And it's still hanging on my refrigerator, and it's been a good 10 years. The girl's probably all grown up by now and probably in college, but stuff like that like really touches me. Like, that there are like very thoughtful kids out there. There are kids that are not big on give me this, give me that, but I want my parents to have something nice. Or
that's great to hear.
Yeah, sometimes you kids like my dad needs a job, something like that.
Yeah, tough things like that.
Tough things like that. Yeah, it's out there. It's out there.
It's out there, but it's part of it.
It can catch you by surprise sometimes. But
yeah, but that's probably what also, like we were talking about the tragedy. It's what makes the good things that much better.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now I feel like that I've berated you enough about Santa Claus. Now I do an ending segment with everyone. That's kind of just, we figured out we figured out why you're Santa Claus. We figured out your origin story, but I do an ending segment with everyone. It's called Desert Island Questions.
Whoa. Ooh, spooky music here.
So Desert Island Questions, whenever I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island and use until they succumb to being starved on a desert island. So first category, you get 3 movies to take with you. So ideally, these are just movies that you'll have for the rest of your life, the only movies you could have for the rest of your life to watch over and over and over. Do you have 3 favorites?
Would be the original Miracle on 34th Street.
Okay.
Elf. I like the movie Elf.
It's great.
Elf. And I like the first Santa Claus movie with Tim Allen. So it would be all Christmas movies because I'm a Christmas kind of guy. And
amazing.
Yeah.
Now, if I asked you to humor me and tell me one movie that's not a Christmas film, do you have one offhand that you love?
Chad, like the movies today that they come out with are so terrible.
Yeah.
They're not watchable. And I probably have to go back. It's a Wonderful Life. Is that like Christmas or non-Christmas?
I'll allow it. That's good. That's a good answer.
But I like the way old movies are made. An old black and white movie. It was a different time back then.
Yeah.
And it reflects like those days. I saw a movie the other day with Bob Hope and Lucille Ball. 1949. It was before she was a big TV star.
Yeah.
And it was based on a Damon Runyon story. And the name of the movie was Sorrowful Jones.
Wow.
And it was funny, but it was like real people, and it was the 1940s, and you saw the old cars and the old stores and the way people acted in the 1940s, and they always fascinate me because I'm blessed enough to be able to grow up in those times.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad that kids today aren't going to know like a local neighborhood theater or know like a toy store.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about that.
Crazy to think about it.
Okay, second category. Do you read by chance?
Not so much anymore.
Okay. Now, if I usually ask people books, but if I wasn't to ask people books, you already told me your favorite gift, one that stuck with you, was your Robot Commando. Robot Commando. That was my gift, or that was my alternate question that I was going to ask.
Looking for you.
Okay. Third category, you get 3 CDs.
Well, I love Christmas music. It's hard to pick one, music. It's hard to pick one CD for Christmas. But, I'm also a Beatles fan.
Yeah.
I love the Beatles. So Sgt. Pepper, Abbey Road, and Revolver.
Okay.
I would say.
Those are good.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your Christmas cookie preference? What are, if you had to give, what's your favorite?
I like the same kind of cookies that you like, Chad.
Round ones.
Well, that's what I tell the kids. What's your favorite cookie? I like the same kind of you like. I like whatever your mom makes, your grandma makes, your aunt makes. The greatest invention in the whole entire world came out of Pittsburgh. And that's the cookie table.
Oh, amazing.
All your grandmas, your aunts, your mom, they all get together and they bake all. Did you have a cookie table at your wedding?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had a ridiculous one.
Oh, yeah.
It was ridiculous. There was more people, and we just went to a wedding that had a cookie table in it as well. And, in fact, you lived in Lawrenceville. The cookie tour is coming back to Lawrenceville.
Oh, wow.
December 9th and 10th. Are you familiar with the cookie tour?
No, what is it?
The Lawrenceville Cookie Tour has been going on for over 2 decades.
Yeah.
It is 30-plus city blocks of different people, store owners and everything.
Oh,
Each person puts out a table in their store full of cookies, and it's basically to bring in people into Lawrenceville. It's an event that's put on by Lawrenceville, and I think there's over 50 people that are participating. But it's basically a reason for you to to go into these different stores and patronize these patronize these local businesses and shop local. And, in turn, these people are making a bunch of cookies, and you could go there with a little Ziploc and go grab some cookies while you're shopping.
That's awesome. Chad, back in the early days of Lawrenceville, I can remember 2 bakeries on Butler Street in Lawrenceville within a few blocks of each other. And as kids, we used to hang out at the boys club.
Yeah.
And back in those days, like you could say to your mom, hey, I'm going out with my friends, whatever. And she knew you were safe.
Yeah.
You can roam the streets and walk around.
Sketchy now.
You're sketchy now, but we used to go to the baker stores. Like we left the boys club, and the baker stores were just really getting ready to close up for the night.
Yeah.
And we would poke our heads in the door and say, hey, you got any broken cookies? And they were like, yeah. They would throw like broken cookies.
Incredible.
They couldn't sell them. They would throw them in a bag. Here you go, kid.
That's awesome. Yeah, the Boys and Girls Club, they're actually doing something called the Cookie Mall, which is basically a bunch of people are doing a bake sale, and all that benefits a bunch of different causes down there. But for anyone that's listening, December 9th and 10th down in Lawrenceville from noon to 5 p.m. I'm going to be buzzing around on my bicycle down there. It's going to be a fun time.
Awesome.
But cookie tables. That's my favorite type of cookie, a round one.
The round ones, anything. I've never had a cookie I didn't like.
Yeah.
Chocolate chip's very popular, but I like sugar cookies. Thumbprint cookies.
Yeah.
The homemade ones are the best.
Are you a cook or a baker?
Nah.
No?
No, I heat things up in the microwave.
Immediately, nah.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's the best part about being Santa. I mean, you probably have more cookies than you know what to deal with. Okay, the third to last question that I have for you is something called the death row meal. So, death row meal, your last meal, you get an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert. What would it be?
Back when Rivers Casino had a buffet, I used to love their buffet.
Do they not have one anymore?
Not that I know of. I'm pretty sure they did away with the buffet. And
yeah.
I would go there not to gamble, but just to eat at a buffet.
Yeah.
I love a good buffet.
Who doesn't?
But their prime rib was fantastic.
Prime rib.
I missed their prime rib. Oh, it was...
Me and my family just had an argument on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I walked in, I made the remark to my mother, and I said, is that turkey cooked all the way? And they were like, yeah, it's cooked all the way. It wasn't cooked all the way, so we had to recook it. And I was like, why are we eating a bunch of turkey? Everyone was complaining about the turkey. I was like, why do we have to have turkey? So we all decided next year we will be having a prime rib. But a prime rib, that's a good answer.
You're lucky your mom didn't smack you.
She was, technically it was my dad. He was the one that was wrong, but they were, I came with gifts in hand. I made a homemade green bean casserole, homemade banana nut bread.
Yeah.
But prime rib, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
It's not picked on here enough. What about an appetizer and a dessert?
Ooh, boy.
Funny enough. Oh, you mean this?
Yeah. You come up with these questions, Chad. I'm prepared to answer.
Funny enough, I don't tell people about these questions. I ask every person. I've had Sally Wiggin in that chair. I've boggled her mind. Edgar Snyder, I've asked him all of these. Wow. And all of these people have did me the honor of playing along with my dumb questions that I ask.
I don't normally do appetizers.
No?
I'm thinking, well, if I go to a Chinese buffet, I like a nice egg roll.
Who doesn't?
Good.
Amazing.
Good. And dessert, again, if you go to buffet, you get you get to have a little bit of this, you have a little bit of this. And,
I love a good buffet.
I like a mixture of things. I mean, a nice homemade cake is fantastic.
That's a great answer. That's good.
Nothing pumpkin spice, though.
Nothing pumpkin spiced.
Nothing pumpkin spice.
Okay.
I think pumpkin spice is overrated.
Yeah, overrated a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Second to last question. You're getting ready to deliver all these toys to all the good boys and girls across the town. I ask everyone, if you were going into a gas station to get a snack, what is your snack of choice?
Whoa. You're killing me here, Chad.
I know they're odd questions, but that's why I ask them.
Yeah, I know, but I have to think now. I'm thinking, maybe a bag of chips.
Bag of chips?
Yeah.
What type?
I like, like Ripple chips,
Perfect.
Crinkle cut chips. Hot, like what is it? That
hot fries? Cheetos?
Not hot fries, Cheetos, but when they make them like spicy hot.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Good answer. Last question. If you could have a conversation, now I ask everyone this, and I would assume the answer would be a loved one, but if it's not a loved one, if you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Well, I mean, it's obvious I've lost a few loved ones. And,
Absolutely.
They would be first on the list. But if you wanted just to go off...
someone that you're not affiliated with.
Boy... That's a good question. I don't think there's anybody out there I'd want to talk to.
Really?
I can't think of anyone I would want to talk to. So, I mean, anything I want to know, I could read about it or go online.
That's fair.
Who would I sit down and maybe Edmund Gwynn, who played Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, that's a great answer.
To pick up some tips and his acting and his ability and what was his motivation.
Is there any interviews or anything about him talking about preparing for that? Like, how did he become that? How did he become Santa?
I don't believe there's any interviews. There's a biography of Natalie Wood where she mentions him, but doesn't get really in depth about it.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to look to see if there's any information about
I don't
that.
think they've ever written a biography about him.
I would be surprised if there wouldn't be a commentary on a special edition movie of it or something like that. People commentating as it's playing along. We'll have to research that a little bit.
You have to, but I do have a copy of Miracle on 34th Street with the extra features, and none of that. I mean, back then they didn't think of doing commentaries and.
That's a good point.
There is a version of Maureen. Is it Maureen O'Hara or Maureen Sullivan that played the female lead in Miracle on 34th Street? I want to say Maureen Sullivan or Maureen O'Hara. My mind's...
That's all right. Either way, one of them.
But she does an audio commentary. I mean, she's old now. I mean, it's been years, and she was actually near the end of her life, and she recorded a special commentary, like a secondary track on the version of Miracle that you could get at Macy's at the time. And it might have been the 50th anniversary of that movie. And Macy's came out with a special edition of it, and she made a commentary track on it. And she mentions when Edmund Gwynn came on, and the girl pulls his beard, she says that beard was a real beard. It wasn't a fake beard. It wasn't glued on, whatever. That was the girl. It didn't come off, and it wouldn't come off because it was his real beard. Because there's been some rhetoric about it couldn't have been a real beard because his last movie was then, and then his new movie, who wouldn't have had enough time to grow a beard, and they're saying it must have been a fake beard. And
I like to leave the magic in it.
Absolutely. I mean, but this is between other Santa Clauses. They're saying, and I'm believing it's a real beard. I'm believing. It even changes length, because they filmed the scene with Macy's parade. They filmed that at an actual Macy's parade before they even started, production, maybe months ahead of time. He had a beard then, and so
interesting.
You can see in the movie the beard changes length, which would account for. And his beard grows as fast as mine, which is an inch a month. You could.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I'll have to check that out next time. See if I could observe it.
You could see Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, her hair changes length during the movie. Because they filmed the movie and then decided to go back and film some extra scenes.
Yeah,
you could see in scenes where her hair's longer.
Wow.
In some scenes.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, John, I can't thank you enough for coming over and talking to me about your life, and I appreciate you being so open and sharing, all the good and all the bad, and just being a really great storyteller. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're a great host here, Chad. I could see you being a Santa Claus. You've got it. I mean, the beard is looking so nice.
I appreciate that.
Maybe a little. I mean, in my early days, I got mine bleached.
Really?
I still get it bleached.
Wow.
It would be salt and pepper now if I let it go.
Yeah, I guess so.
I get the hair bleached, and my hair would be gray. I get the hair. I found a great hairdresser that lives near me. If you ever want to give it a try, and she doesn't use hydrogen peroxide. She uses an enzyme product, which isn't as harmful. And I get it touched up every couple of weeks.
How long have you had that beard that long?
Oh, I mean, probably throughout the year.
Yeah.
I mean, I might get it cut like when it gets longer than this.
When's the last time you didn't have a beard?
Ooh.
Long time ago?
After I divorced my wife,
Yeah.
my second wife.
That's whenever you got your beard back.
I grew it and I said, I'm keeping it. I just decided to keep. Well, when you wear a beard, people get used to seeing you with a beard.
Yeah.
And so it's weird, like if you shave it or
I'm
cut
afraid to cut mine.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to.
People won't recognize you.
Yeah, I'd probably look foolish without it.
Yeah.
Now, take a second and tell me, or tell the listeners where they could find your Instagram, where they could find more information about you if they wanted to follow along with all the things that you're doing.
Oh, I usually post where I'm going to be on my Instagram, which is Santa John Pittsburgh. If I'm going to be at the History Center, I'll post it. We're doing a parade with John and Rachel via jagoff.com podcast, which is going to be December 2nd. It's the block in Northway. Usually, yeah, I try to let people. Well, moms are like real big. Like, if you're Santa Claus and you're a professional Santa Claus, who's your client?
Yeah.
It's moms.
Yeah.
Moms are going to research you. Moms are going to look at.
Yeah, they're hunting you
anything
down.
But it's their kid, and it's not so much they want the best looking Santa Claus or the one Santa Claus with, he went to the best Santa Claus school or has the best outfit.
They want the experience, though.
They want the experience. They want the Santa Clauses, which is going to make their kid smile.
Yeah.
It's going to make their kid the happiest. And they'll go through your Instagram page and they'll look to see where your likes are coming from. They're going to look at your followers. They're going to research this pretty good.
I don't know if I've ever seen a photo of you. I've done my research. I don't know if I've seen a photo of you with a smaller smile. I don't know if I've ever seen someone with a bigger smile. You have a fantastic smile. You light up the room with it.
Thank you kindly, but a lot of my references come from word of mouth. I had a website for a while. I took it down. I thought, I'm paying all this money, and I really wasn't getting that much of a response from the website. I get a few inquiries through Instagram, but I'd say more than half of what my bookings are word of mouth. Country clubs. I mean, somebody that goes to the country club recommended me, and they'll look me up. And
incredible.
Yeah, and out of nowhere.
And for people that are listening to it, you could scroll up right now, and I'll have everything linked below. You could just click the link. It'll take you right over to John's Instagram. You could keep in touch with all of that. Like I said before, we have the cookie tour coming up December 9th and 10th. That's a great holiday event. There's so many fun holiday events. This is the time to really partake and enjoy the good events that we have around here. One of my favorite is the Clinton light, the lights in the park that you can go ride through. I'm going to link all this down here.
One.
You been there?
That's excellent.
That's my tradition with my wife. Every year we take the dogs, we put them in the back seat, and we drive around there. And they do a great job.
Oh, they do. It's absolutely. I mean, they've done away with Heartwood Acres, which is a shame.
Yeah,
but Clinton Park is amazing.
Amazing. It's $10, and they let you drive around multiple times. Yeah. They're just happy that you're there.
Yeah, they've done a fantastic job. I mean, it looks like it's some small little park that you're going to go through. No, it's huge.
Yeah, it's over a mile loop, and it weaves in and out, and there's trees there. It's a great time. I cannot recommend that place enough.
Same here. Oh, that's one of my favorite places.
There you go. Co-signed by Santa John. Everyone else that's listening, appreciate it as usual. Thank you. Call you right back.
Happy holidays to all the viewers out there, and Merry Christmas.
That's amazing.
Oh,
that is incredible.